Okay. How do I do this one then? Hello, fellow football connoisseurs. Welcome back to the Quick Take. Chelsea lost 5-0 to Arsenal. Now, I thought about a statement on my community page. I checked this morning. It wasn't there. Maybe it is there. Who knows? But I said that I wasn't going to record immediately after the game, that I wanted to sleep on the news, and that I was going to record the next day, which is what I'm doing now. And since then, we have had a lot of news coming out from all various different news outlets. You know, Matt Law has had his word, Sammy Mokbol, we've had stuff from Fraser Fletcher, some interesting stuff regarding Soccer Age, which I'll get into at the end of the video because it is a bit funny. We've also had some stuff regarding Pochettino's future, certain players who love him and want him to stay, 2 board members apparently, according to Ben Jacobs last night in Pices and Cons playback space last night. If you weren't there, it's actually quite a good listen. They did have Ben Jacobs on, and he did talk. He did speak on how, you know, chances are Poch is safe for now. The owners would rather wait until the very end of the season in order to do a review. European football is, of course, very important, and they do consider Conference League football to be European football. In my opinion, I don't. I think it's fugazi. I think it's a made-up competition, and I think that Chelsea should not be anywhere near the Conference League. We have a lot to get into. I don't want to waffle on too long. I'm going to first start off with the game, and then I'll get into the post-match comments, and then go into all the news that has followed after this, and in my opinion, what I think should be done from the second this video is done. So I'm going to go over the game first. Chelsea lose 5-0. Right, so let's get into the... Okay, so Chelsea lost 5-0, obviously. Arsenal took the lead quite early on. Trossard for the first goal on the 4th minute, sorry. And from the very start of the game, it just looked like Arsenal were there to really carry themselves through the game in a much more believable fashion than Chelsea were. Their passing was far crisper, had a lot more speed behind the ball, a lot more unity in terms of the way they moved together. The pressing was far better. We lost basically a lot of the midfield battles with Enzo and Caicedo. Enzo, of course, playing through a hernia. I don't think he should be playing it again this season. I think he should be getting surgery, and I think he should be resting. Playing with a hernia is never fun. I've never had a hernia before. I can only imagine the pain and discomfort he is playing with, performing at a level, at the standard of Premier League football. Imagine trying to do that with a hernia. Not good. Don't play him for the rest of the season. Get the surgery. Just move Conor Gallagher alongside Caicedo. You want someone who's going to press, put Conor Gallagher next to Caicedo, and then for the rest of the season to start an attack of, I don't know, Sterling, Palmer, Madueke, and Jackson. I'm throwing my hand up in the air because it means absolutely nothing. We could have anybody up there as long as Cole Palmer's there, and then we might have a chance to score. Because right now, after that performance from Nicholas Jackson in front of goal in the past 2 games, I have no hope regarding the last 6 games. I think there's 5 or 6 games this season. We've got Aston Villa next, we've got West Ham next, we've got Tottenham next. It's going to be very interesting to see where Chelsea finish at the end of this season. Again, Arsenal just played us completely off the park. 5-0, could have been 6-0. Again, Chelsea did have their chances, but we were not clinical enough. Lovely through ball, one-on-one with the keeper. Jackson just decides to hit the side netting, even though all he need to do was just shoot a cross goal and it's in the back of the net. But hey-ho, sometimes those little split-second decisions are a little bit too much for a professional footballer to make in front of goal, especially when they're a striker, or at least when they're an attacker, and they've trained their entire life for that exact moment. So, getting to the post-match comments, here we go. Pochettino, the team showed a lack of capacity to resist. That's what the problem is. I'd say there are a few more problems there, Poch. Those who watched the game obviously saw how Chelsea looked absolutely clueless what to do when in possession. Chelsea did actually have the majority of the possession in this game. I know, crazy that we lost 5-0 and had the majority of the possession. Who saw that coming? But when we did have the ball, we looked absolutely clueless, just standing around, completely stagnant, passing in between the defenders. Every time we tried to move it up the field, we lost the ball and conceded, or not conceded, but we conceded chances from that point on. Cole Palmer is the only player we have to link all the lines of the team. When you miss a player like this, it's not easy. Now, this is quite interesting and somewhat ironic, because before the game he put out a statement saying, you know, we need to prove to the fans that this isn't Cole Palmer FC, this is Chelsea FC. Without Cole Palmer, we conceded 5 goals and didn't look like really scoring convincingly once. Again, Jackson in front of goal, you're not really convinced there. A ball comes in for him, perfect heading opportunity. He puts his hand up and handballs it. Like, well, I don't know. I've lost my mind with this. I've absolutely lost my mind. My head's gone. Head's on Mars. Pochettino, the circumstances are the reason we were defeated. The circumstances being that you were on the touchline, my sir, and that you have not instilled any sort of build-up play or any sort of build-up play to fall back on against a team like Arsenal. I mean, we've had good games against strong opposition this season. In fact, our best games have been against strong opposition. Spurs, we played well against Man City, 4-4. Should have beat them in the semi-final. We played well against Liverpool in the final. We lost. We played well against other teams who are very, very good this season. Very competitive matches, and again we managed to get over the line against Man United. And you would think that against tougher teams who like to attack us, that then gives us chances to hit them on the break, which is exactly what Pochettino wants Chelsea to be, a transitional team who wins the ball and plays vertical balls quickly and gets the ball up the field as fast as possible. To me, I just don't think that's sustainable, and we definitely saw it recently again against Man City, and again against not Manchester United, Arsenal. We also have this from Ben Jacobs, who reported this during the playback space last night. There are at least 2 board members that, if it went to a vote, they would recommend that Pochettino stays next season. Guaranteed, one of them is Bedad Egbali. Guaranteed. Maurizio Pochettino has questioned the club's strategy, saying the club needs to come up with a smarter strategy and inconsistency is inevitable with such a young team. The result increases the scrutiny on Pochettino, who will hold talks with Chelsea officials at the end of the season amid uncertainty over his future at the club. Pochettino has said that he took a risk joining Chelsea, and now the club need to assess the plan and be clever. Poch is now in trouble because now he has publicly stated and highlighted the shortcomings and the ignorant and stupid decisions made by the board, made by Todd Boehly, made by Bedad Egbali, made by Paul and Stanley, and made by Lawrence Stewart in terms of the squad building and the lack of balance that they have given this side by just signing young players, prospects, players on low wages, on massive contracts to reduce their amortization cost and reduce our FFP struggles, blah, 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 blah. They have completely messed it up, and he has called it out here. I somewhat respect him for doing this, but for me, it's not enough at this point. Things have gone on too long. We then had this from Mail Sport, breaking business as usual at Chelsea today, but the club's view is that there is still plenty to play for this season, but pressure is building towards the summer. At this point, I think it's inevitable that he will be gone in the summer. Quotes like this, they always surround managers right before, at least. This is the kind of the smoke that you see billowing over the hills before you step over the hill and you see the massive bonfire that is the manager being sacked. This is what I see. I see Pochettino getting sacked at the end of the season. Again, he's spoken out against the decisions made by the owners in terms of the recruitment strategy. Performances have not been there. Failure to win any silverware, losing finals against Liverpool, unable to get over the line against Man City when we really should have done, and again losing, dropping points to teams like Wolves twice this season, Sheffield United, Burnley. It's not looking good for Pochettino, thankfully. There is a sense that a parting of ways could seriously be considered, though Pochettino has been fully involved in pre-season planning. Pretty professional. I'd imagine that would be the case for most managers towards the end of the season. They get involved with pre-season planning, even if their future is unlikely, just in case he does stay. And he manages to turn things around in the last 5 games. He managed to win all 6 games, and other teams drop loads of points, and we do manage to get into Europe. Although even then, Europa League is barely good enough. Champions League should be the bare minimum. We also then had this from the same source, Sami Mokbal 81DM. Chelsea have a long-term admiration for Ruben Amorim and could move for him if they sack for Mauricio Pochettino. Roberto De Zerbi could be another option. There is a feeling he would be open to leaving Brighton this summer. Of course, Roberto De Zerbi has been linked with moves to Barcelona. He's been linked to moves with Liverpool, Chelsea, of course, and Bayern Munich. Ruben Amram, on the other hand, has been linked with moves to West Ham and specifically Liverpool. Liverpool have been leading the race for him for a while now since Xabi Alonso announced he was staying at Bayer Leverkusen. However, it does seem like he will not be going to either clubs, having met with West Ham the other day in London. And I would like to bring back attention to this Ruben Amorim story, because the other day, David Ornstein came out with a piece, or came out with an interview, where he went over Ruben Amorim's recent trip to London. And one of the things he brought up was quite interesting. He alluded to the fact, if I remember correctly, that West Ham wasn't the only club he met with when he made his visit to London a couple of days ago. In my opinion, Chelsea would have been one of the other clubs he would have met with during his time in London. I think it's clear as day that the writing is on the wall for Pochettino and that the future does need to be sorted. Ruben Amorim, of course, I did a comparison to him on my Twitter today, where I looked at his time at Sporting, and I've almost I have compared it in terms of honours won to Jose Mourinho before he came to Chelsea when he was at FC Porto, and they're somewhat similar in the amount of league titles what they've won, and the amount of Taça de Portugal they've won. Of course, Jose Mourinho won the Champions League and the UEFA Cup with Porto. Ruben Amorim has done neither, but in terms of achievements, I think they're still fairly similar. Again, Ruben Amorim has been compared to Mourinho by some. In my opinion, I think Mourinho is a one-man enigma. I think there won't be another Mourinho for a long, long time. But in terms of man management, in terms of grinding out performances, in terms of building a team full of consistency, and in terms of getting the best out of your striker in Victor Gyökeres, who he signed from Coventry, I think Ruben Amorim is a fantastic, brilliant manager, and I will be doing another breakdown on Ruben Amorim for the future, because it does seem like he is a very hot candidate right now, especially for the Chelsea job, having a move to Liverpool fall through and having turned down West Ham. Apparently, he is also intrigued by the idea of working at a project club as well. Of course, Chelsea right now are the epitome of a project club, unfortunately. So things seem to be aligning in the Ruben Amorim sphere. Pressure is growing on Pochettino. This is coming in from Matt Law DT, usually quite reliable for news regarding Chelsea. Amid frustration over some decisions, but he still retains support within Chelsea, and there is recognition that he has been working within a tough set of circumstances. Obviously, we know what those circumstances are. Young squad and massive amounts of injuries, but in my opinion, that's still not an excuse for the lack of any real foundation in terms of tactics that we saw against Arsenal and in other games this season. Being unable to beat relegation fodder is one thing, but just standing there stagnated, players not knowing what to do, Mudryk just standing basically at left back. That's how far deep he was, just not knowing what his role was, not knowing what to do. It was very telling that these players are just not well informed into how to act as professional footballers on the field. Some things have been noted. This is again coming in from Matt Law. Handling of young talents such as Palmer, Jackson and Gusto. What about David Washington? Just saying. How's his handling been? Jackson has been fairly poor in games this season, whereas David Washington hasn't even had the chance to prove himself. Improved home form. 2 trips to Wembley. Congratulations, you managed to get to Wembley. Did you win anything? No. Public comments about lack of experience. Again, owners are not going to like that. That goes against their PR. That goes against their egos. Team selections have sometimes raised eyebrows. You can say that again. And then we have this from Matt Law DT. Now, this is quite an interesting piece here because Chelsea and a lot of the talk around Chelsea right now is, well, if we sack a manager, who's going to want to come in here? Well, apparently top managers are. Sources say that there is already top coaches who would be prepared to take over from Pochettino and would be excited. Now, hopefully these top coaches aren't the likes of Thomas Frank and Eddie Howe and Julian Lopetegui and Vincent Kompany. If it's those names there, okay. But if it is other names like Roberto De Zerbi, if it's names like Ruben Amorim, and if it's names like Hansi Flick off the top of my head, not too bad. Again, Chelsea is still a massive institution. We still have a lot of potential going forward, and I think any real manager who knows how to set up with this side to get the best out of it and not just try and force them into his stubborn ways, turning them into something that they're not really designed to be, which is exactly what Pochettino is doing. And Euro Expert did a fantastic piece today on Twitter going over why bringing in Pochettino into this Chelsea side was a mistake, why it's failed, and what Chelsea really need to do in the future in order to get it right. And basically comes to the conclusion that Pochettino from the very beginning was the wrong choice for manager. But again, top coaches would like to come to Chelsea. There is still hope. Okay, if we sack him, there are still good options out there who will actually be willing to walk into this mess and take on the responsibility and prove their worth. Chelsea could consider offers from Saudi Arabia for Sterling, but he doesn't want to leave. Of course, Raheem Sterling probably quite comfortable now living back in London, making 325k a week to sit on the bench for a lot of games and really not put in that much effort to become a millionaire every single month, basically. He's already a millionaire, but add another million and a bit to his bank account every single month. Certainly, I would like a life like that, but we will do everything in our power to shift him because we need to make sales this summer, of course, FFP. Also make room for players coming in because there will be another bit of a rebuild come this summer with players coming in. We also have this from Sammy Mokbel. Whether Chelsea qualify for Europe will serve as a contributing factor as the owners decide Pochettino's future. Now, I'm just going to quickly bring up Chelsea's remaining fixtures here. I've done this in a few videos in a row, but I just want to quickly remind myself. So Chelsea, again, still in 9th place, 47 points. We do have one more game in hand. That is against Spurs. Next up, we have Aston Villa away from home, then Spurs at Stamford Bridge. Now, if we lose to Spurs at Stamford Bridge, it's over for Pochettino. Then we have West Ham at home, Nottingham Forest away, Brighton away at the Amex, and Bournemouth at home at Stamford Bridge. That will hopefully be Mauricio Pochettino's last ever game. I was about to say at Stamford Bridge, but that reminds me of the story I'm going to get to at the end of the video. Yes, getting Europe will, of course, be heavily factored into whether or not he stays next season. I don't like to want Chelsea to lose. I hate going to games kind of feeling guilty, wanting us to lose. I never want us to lose. But the question I have for you guys is, has it gotten to the point where you would sacrifice wins towards the end of the season and sacrifice getting Europe sacrifice getting Conference League football for next season in order for change to be made, in order for Poch to be sacked, in order for when Stanley and Stewart to be removed from their position, in order for a new model to be placed where we're not just fully focused on signing young up-and-coming talents and instead focused on making Chelsea the best it can be and providing a competent manager like a Ruben Amorim or like a Roberto De Zerbi or whoever comes in at that level the tools they need to success and build long-term future, and again help the players and get the best out of the likes of Enzo Fernandez and Moises Caicedo and Levi Colwill and Reece James and Malo Gusto and the players who will be the spine for Chelsea going forward. I don't want someone like Mauricio Pochettino coaching Kendry Paez. I want someone who has brought through fantastic talent and who has won things and league titles and trophies in order to be in charge of those players, because when they're 17, 18, 19, 20, 21, 22, these are so important in terms of their development years and who they will become as players. We sign these players hoping that their value would increase, but if they are being coached by players like Mauricio Pochettino, being made worse, being run into the ground through his ridiculously high pace training sessions where he gets them to run across the entire length of Africa for 2 laps every training session before games. I just don't think that serves in the best benefit for Chelsea players going forward. Another reason why he should be gone for the training practices. I think it's run the Chelsea side into the ground. There is recognition within Chelsea board that keeping Maurizio Pochettino no matter what would give Chelsea some much needed stability. I then hark back on my previous point. Do you really want this crop of players, his foundation in terms of who they will become as players, to be based on Maurizio Pochettino? Or would you rather it's on a manager like Roberto De Zerbi or a manager like Ruben Amorim? That is my question to you. Depending on whether we get Europe or not, should these players continue developing under Poch? That is my question. Now, again, I have mentioned Ruben Amorim coming towards the end of the video now, but I have mentioned Ruben Amorim, and of course we did have the story earlier from CFC Pies. Chelsea have a long-term admiration for Ruben Amorim and could move for him if they sack Pochettino. This, once again, backed up by Matt Law's claims, which are very, very interesting. Chelsea could consider appointing Ruben Amorim if Maurizio Pochettino leaves this summer. Again, I quite like Ruben Amorim. I think he's a very good coach. Let me know your thoughts on Ruben Amorim in the comment section down below. I've gone on for over 20 minutes now, so I'm going to try and wrap this video up with my final news story of the day. This coming in from Gillian. Very interesting news story here, and it's a bit of a comedic one. Whether you want to believe it or not, here we go here. One problem facing the Chelsea board in making a decision over Pochettino is Soccer Aid 2024. It's at Stamford Bridge on the 9th of June, and the Argentine is lined up as manager for Soccer Aid World 11, making things potentially difficult should he go before then. Oh, God. You know what? It would be kind of funny if he was sacked before then. Imagine that reception. Imagine his just face, just standing on the touchline, just... It's like returning to your place of work after you've been fired. It's just like, well, it actually would be returning to your place of work after you've been fired, just looking a bit out of place, bit sheepish, just scratching your nose, kind of like, just keeping your eyes on the floor, putting on fake smiles. That's exactly what it would be like. But seriously, we know this Chelsea board right now, they're a bunch of clueless idiots, and they referenced Arsenal's all or nothing in terms of deciding the future of their personal managers and not taking into account the massively different context regarding each club. But if there is any sort of chance that Pochettino's future is decided because he's going to be the manager of Soccer Aid, if that has any impact on Chelsea's activities in terms of the manager relations, that is utterly ridiculous. Again, I don't really believe this story. I just thought it would be a little bit of a comedic tone to end the video on. But again, Chelsea, lots of news today. Lots of talk regarding Pochettino. Is he safe? Is he not safe? In my opinion, he is a dead man walking. Let me know your thoughts on Pochettino in the comment section down below. I ran a poll last night. Poch in, Poch out. Majority of you said Poch out. I can imagine why. I have in the quick take, and I'll catch you on the next one. See you later.